Hey, Emma.
Hey, Dad.
Today we're going to talk about Tourette's.
We're going to talk about what it is, how people are affected by it, and some challenges that are faced from it.
All right, let's get started.
Let's go.
So you wanted to start with a weird general conversation?
Sure, let's do that.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that's natural.
Yeah.
So, Tourettes Syndrome. Let's talk about Tourette's today. Do you know why we're going to talk about Tourette's today?
I have no idea.
I wonder. So, this is something that has affected you for the last, 4, 5, 6 years?
I think since middle school, or 5th or 4th grade.
Yeah, I know we talked about it in a previous podcast briefly, and that this is the one where we're going to cover it a little more in depth.
Yep.
But, yeah, you've been ticking like crazy for quite a few years.
Like a time bomb.
Like a time bomb, yep. So let's talk about what Tourette's is in case people out there don't know what it is. So Tourette's, according to the web, the interweb is so brilliant, it says it is a nervous system disorder involving repetitive movements or unwanted sounds. Neurological tics, involuntary, of course, vocalizations, and often the compulsive utterance of obscenities.
I do not have that.
Yeah, fortunately you don't have the obscenities part. But yeah, you do have the tics and the vocalizations. You want to talk about how it affects you?
When I first got it, it was when I was younger, like 4th or 5th grade or so. It started off being like a head where I would like jerk my head, and then it went into my shoulders, and then it was like my full body was jerking. And
this was over time,
rolling.
right? That the progression happened over time. It wasn't just all of a sudden a switch turned on, right?
Yeah, no. But it started with my head, I think, and then it went into my shoulders, and then my whole body was like rolling and twitching and stuff.
I remember those full body tics were pretty unusual to watch, that's for sure.
Yeah. So then that's when I started like, okay, maybe there's something going on here. So I went to the doctor, and they said, just to start off, it was neurological tics. But then
they didn't have a name for it.
Yeah, they didn't call it Tourette's. But then we had to change doctors. So then this new one, they were like, yeah, no, you got Tourette's. And this was just a recent doctor that I just switched to. But
we probably would have kept going to the other doctor except for our insurance.
Yeah.
Those insurance changes forced us to change our doctor, and now we've got one who did come up with a diagnosis.
I think that kind of helped, because then I actually have to I have a name to put to it instead of just saying, oh yeah, I have, I don't know.
Yeah.
But,
so it helped for you to have some sort of definition of what it was, huh?
Yeah.
Instead of just some random tics.
Yeah. And so I got some medication and stuff, and it kind of, I've been through so many, and some of them have helped and some of them have not helped at all, and there have been ones for sleeping and ones for...
Yeah, that's the challenge with this type of condition, is that you can go through all these different... There's no standard treatment because I guess it affects people differently. So you don't know what medication to give. So we try different medication combinations until we find one that seems to have an impact on the symptoms, which are the tics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think what I have right now is pretty solid, but...
I still see a lot of tics, but especially at the end of the day. But then your medication is worn off and you're exhausted and...
Yeah, I think that's interesting how it affects me more at the end of the day, especially right when I get home. Like, when I go to school, I don't notice them as much. I don't know why. Maybe it's just because I'm focused on schoolwork and stuff that it just doesn't happen as much. But then once I get home and I'm free to think about whatever, then that's when they really kick in, especially maybe just because it's at the end of the day, but
maybe that's because your body's relaxing and winding down, and so your body is free to tick away. But you talked in the past too about sometimes you really try to suppress your tics when you're in school.
Yeah, sometimes like the just recently, I haven't been doing it too much, but especially when I have a presentation, I try not to tick as much, and I try to hold it in so that I don't end up ticking and while I'm doing a presentation, especially since the ones that we're doing in one of my classes are filmed. So I don't want to. And it was funny because we had filmed one of our presentations from last semester, and then last semester we also got to watch them individually, and I was looking at mine, and it was like a group presentation, and I would do great towards the beginning of the presentation. I wouldn't move at all. I'd say my stuff and whatever, but then towards the end, I was starting to do like a neck twitch. And
Yeah.
I was like, oh no! I didn't know if he noticed it or not, but I was like, he probably did because he notices every little thing in the video.
Probably, yeah. So what does it feel like when you're suppressing your tics?
People in the past, or I've seen people describe it as like an itch that you have that you're not allowed to scratch. And you know, when you think about an itch, it just gets worse and worse.
Yeah. You focus on it more and more.
Yeah. Like right now, I'm trying to not snort into the into the microphone because I don't want to make that sound. But
And so what does that feel like?
well, usually I do my snorting one when I have like my nose is congested. It usually comes out a lot, I think, when my nose is congested, but then I just do it over and over again. But yeah, it kind of feels like there's stuff in my nose and it's not fun.
No, yeah, it doesn't sound like it.
Yeah.
A lot of people mention that one.
Yeah.
That's probably your most obvious tic.
I know my grandpa on your side.
Yeah, my dad.
Yeah, he has like isn't it an eye twitch?
Well,
what is it?
A little bit in the eye twitch, but he also has that sniffing tic also.
And they haven't really done anything about it, right?
Well, he really has never been officially diagnosed with it. It's just something that he's lived with all his life. But this condition, I guess, comes on typically in your teen years.
Yeah, it comes out mostly when it was like 6 to 13 is one of the most common times that it starts or whatever.
Yeah. And in many cases, it can continue on for the rest of your life, but in some cases, it can diminish as you get older.
Mm-hmm. I saw just recently, or it was like a month or two ago, I stumbled upon this video of like these people with Tourette's, like talking about their Tourette's, and I think it was common things that people say to people with Tourette's, how it's offensive or whatever. And so that got me into watching like videos of people with Tourette's, which would also bring out my but it was cool. I found this one YouTuber. I don't watch him anymore because I didn't agree with some of the stuff he was saying, but he openly like made videos with his Tourette's and would actually in some of his videos he filmed himself just sitting in class and like ticking.
Yeah.
And I thought that was kind of cool. And he also did a try not to tick challenge or try not to move challenge, but it was Tourette's edition. And that's where I got the definition of what it's like to try and suppress one.
Okay.
But he was cool. But I didn't agree with what he said because he kept saying, I don't know, he just kept saying it was like a burden to his life, maybe because his are a little more severe than mine, but how they're kind of like, or he kept saying they were a disorder or like, and when I think of that, I think of something that's severe, and it's really not, or I know some cases are severe, but mine isn't, so.
I think you're very fortunate that your case is not. I mean,
Yeah.
we saw that one video that we were watching together of the girl who couldn't control, she was hitting herself.
Yeah.
And she couldn't control it.
Yeah.
And she would have the vocal outbursts and the swearing and the, that kind of social disruption is just completely, everybody's going to notice. It's totally disruptive to her life.
Because she had hit her mother, she hit.
Yeah, and she couldn't control it.
Yeah, and she was like falling down and stuff. But.
Yeah, and that's pretty extreme case.
Yeah.
Fortunately, you don't have that. But.
Yeah. And there are some common tics that people have among others. I've seen in videos, like, they would have, like, the shoulder shrug and, like, the head twist, like, the eyes. I think pretty much, no, that's, like, a really common one, I think.
Okay. Have you discussed this with any of your friends?
Well, I have with my closest friends. It was funny because I hadn't planned on telling her at any moment, but one day I think she was staying over, and then in the morning, I have to take my pills in the morning, so I was doing that, and she's like, why do you take those anyway? And then I didn't answer, but my mom was like, oh yeah, because I'm like, thank you.
Thanks for revealing my weakness.
Yeah, so now she knows, and I think she doesn't really care, I think.
No, I don't think
she does. I think that's fine. I really like that she doesn't really care, but I think she's noticing it a little more, and maybe I think we have talked about it a couple times. I can't remember at the moment, but
Okay.
like just small conversations about it. So I think she's more understanding of it. But I haven't told any of my other friends. When I was in middle school, I didn't like this at all. There was this one boy in my class who he was in all my classes. So when you're in the gifted program in middle school, you have the exact same kids in all of your classes for all 3 years. So I was stuck with this kid for all 3 years in all of my classes. But I don't see him anymore, though. But he was really annoying. He was the most annoying kid in the class, if you ask anybody. And I was sat near him at one point. It was like in science class. And he was, I think it was, I did like an eye twitch or something. Or like I blinked like really hard, and he did it back at me.
Okay.
And like he was mocking me.
Mocking you, yeah.
Yeah, and then I think I also did a little later like my sniffing in, and then like my snort, and I think he did that back too. And I was like, you're annoying. But I didn't say anything about it. I just kind of like shrugged it off. But
yeah,
it's kind of
hurtful though, isn't it?
Yeah, he notices it and then makes fun of me for it almost. But
yeah. That's hard. That's hard.
And then there have been people, because I just recently developed like this hip one where I like move my hip really weird. And people have mistaken it for limping. So we were at a Halloween party just this past year. It was this person that I know. There's a parent of one of the kids, and they're friends with me, so I know them. At the end of the party, when I was like walking out with her, and she said, "So I saw you limping earlier. Were you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Yeah, no, I wasn't limping." And she's like, "Oh." And then just kind of walked away.
And you just left it there?
Yeah.
You didn't explain anymore?
Yeah, I wanted to, but she kind of just walked away.
Yeah.
But people have like, they would, if I do my leg one, they're like, "Oh, are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, no, I'm fine." And yeah.
And you just leave it there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't really explain it, but
You're not comfortable with it yet.
yeah, but
Someday you'll get there. So let's talk about some of the treatments that you've gone through. In the beginning, you were on different medications. We know that. We went through a variety of different cocktails to try and get something that would have an impact.
yeah. And then there was this one that was really, really good, but
It was ridiculously expensive,
Yeah,
too,
it happened
wasn't
to be the most expensive, so I ended up, the one I'm taking right now is the generic version for that. That's still working very well. So.
It works, but it's not as effective as the
Yeah.
name brand version that was so expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now you just started chiropractic treatments, too, in hopes that we can have an impact on that.
Yeah. I think it's helping a little bit. It's definitely made me more relaxed, but then also when I am due for having like another adjustment, it tenses me up. I don't know. I end up relaxed towards the beginning of the week when I get it, and then I slowly get more tense as it, like I never fully, I think it is helping a little bit. But then also I did develop, some of my tics went away from that, but some of them also started because like
some
the
new
hip
ones.
one. Yeah.
The hip one, yeah.
And it was kind of funny actually because I like did another assessment after a few weeks of doing the adjustments, and then she noticed that there was like a very big change in my lower like back area, and she's like, "Why the heck is that?" And she's like, "Is there anything happening in your lower back area?" I'm like, "Well, I developed this new hip tic." And she's like, "Oh my gosh, thank you." Because she was so worried. She thought she was doing something wrong. And I'm like, no, it's just because I started this.
Yeah. And now she's a chiropractor who specializes in females. Her primary clientele is girls, teens, and women.
Yeah.
So I think she's a good one to be talking to go to.
Yeah, exactly.
So what advice would you give other teens who are developing these types of tics? You have anything for them?
I don't think there's a way that you can fully reduce them. I know a lot of people have tried medication or the chiropractic or some type of way to
acupuncture. I mean, there's a lot of different treatments that you could try
to try and reduce
avenues.
them. But most of the doctors that I've gone to, or I think all of them that I've gone to, have said that you can't get rid of them completely. So I think just maybe finding ways that you